Railroad Bridge. At one time, the Wabash Railroad Bridge carried trains downtown to a roundabout and train station, which was consumed in a different fire in 1946. With the station gone, the bridge was no longer of use, began to decay, was eventually dismantled in 1948. Well, the lots of ideas and replacement for the Wabash Railroad Bridge, a vehicular bridge. In fact, I personally still own one of those collectible Pittsburgh landmark posters, which includes a photo of the all-new Wabash Bridge coming in 1998. Well, funding problems, engineering problems, and land acquisition problems created too many hurdles to build a brand new span across this part of the city. And if you happen to take a look over to the left side of the road, you'll see the mouth of the Wabash Tunnel, which is where the bridge would have connected. And the road where they ended up building more or less reflects the attitude of, let's just go this way. Now, despite not having a bridge here, bridge piers are national historic landmarks, and they are for sale. So you too could own one of the former Wabash Bridge piers. Now, what you would do with them is anybody's guess. One of the cooler ideas I heard was making a zip line across the Allegheny River, or doing one of those micro homes on top of each one. Although because they are designated historic landmarks, you probably would not be allowed to do anything with them. Other than water traffic in the area, and therefore trade and commerce throughout the region. This is why there are many battles have been fought, and much blood has been spilled at the point. Because of these three rivers, Pittsburgh is accessible waterway from anywhere on planet Earth. From the point, you sail the Ohio River, 981 miles, to Cairo, Illinois, where it enters into the mighty Mississippi. From there, the Mississippi another 983 miles, where it enters into the Gulf of Mexico at New Orleans. From there, take your ocean. Sail underneath Florida to get to the Atlantic, through the Panama Canal to get to the Pacific. Speaking of the Panama Canal, more freight flows through Pittsburgh every year than even the Panama Canal. Pittsburgh is one of the nation's largest inland water ports. Now, all three rivers have very distinct qualities and traits about them. The Monongahela River is one of only 4 rivers in the entire world that flows north its entire length. It begins 128 miles from here in Fairmont, West Virginia, at a much higher elevation. And the water flows downhill, which in this case is north. Well, pay close attention as we scrape across the Ohio, because if you want to be in 3 places at once, you can now scrape it off your bucket list. As we cross the point, the front of the boat will be the Allegheny River, the center will be the Ohio River, and the rear. Now, you might be surprised to learn that the average depth of these three rivers is only about 16.5 feet. And they're only that deep because of the extensive locks and dams that have been installed throughout all three rivers. Without those locks and dams, the average depth of these three rivers 9 months out of the year will only be between 2 and 3 feet, which means you could literally walk from one riverbank to the other and not get submerged. Back in the colonial days, traders and merchants had to time their trips through Pittsburgh so they could navigate the area during the springtime, which is when the ice would thaw, and there'd be heavy rain, and the rivers would flood. They could get through as quickly as possible, hopefully, and not be moored along the riverbed by the time they got through. But the Army Corps of Engineers came in and just put in those locks and dams, which guarantees us 9 feet of navigable water, although here in the Pittsburgh pool, they keep us at about 16.5 feet. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the unlikely event that the Three Rivers Queen were to spring a leak and sink to the bottom of the river, don't be concerned. Just come up to the top deck. You'll never get your feet wet. The boat is taller than the water is deep. As we enter onto the Allegheny River, it also has some very unique characteristics. It begins 325 miles away in Potters County, Pennsylvania. It weaves northward for a bit into Olean, New York, before finding its way back here to the point. Of those 325 miles, only 72 of them can be navigated by a large riverboat. After that, to take place as they continue to pull that valuable sand and gravel out of the river for manufacturing of glass. All three rivers were named by Native Americans. Monongahela River means steep, sliding banks along the water. The Ohio River means fair waters, and Allegheny River means beautiful stream. Move it to the right side, you get a great view of Point State Park. 36 acres of preserved green space in that iconic fountain. As recently as the 1950s, this entire area was little more than urban decay, dilapidated buildings, and broken down factories. As plumes became shuttered, the city began to buy up property with the vision of creating this urban oasis right here in the heart of downtown. The next bridge we're about to pass under is the Fort Duquesne Bridge, which is a sister bridge of the Fort Pitt Bridge. They join together right at the heart of Point State Park, and the names are even a bit symbolic. Duquesne Bridge is a much smaller double-decker bowstring arch bridge than the Fort Pitt Bridge is. It's like the original Fort Duquesne, built by the French in 1754, was much smaller than the original Fort Pitt, built by the British between 1759 and 1761. But what's particularly interesting about the Fort Duquesne Bridge is the fact that it was completed many years before the connecting interstate. So for the longest period of time, the Fort Duquesne Bridge simply stopped over the Allegheny River. Locals pointed the bridge to nowhere, with good reason. Well, like any active construction zone, the end of the bridge to nowhere had plenty of concrete barriers, traffic cones, and warning signs. Did that stop a University of Pittsburgh student in 1964 from driving his family's 1959 station wagon off the bridge to nowhere? It did not. Somehow this... The next interesting piece of architecture coming into view is the Renaissance Hotel. You can see that large keyhole built into the center of the building. Built in 1907, that structure predated commercial air conditioning. So the keyhole was designed to allow for a cooling wind effect on the part of the structure, as well as allowing for a window to be built into every office. And of course, now as a hotel, every hotel room now has a window. The first of three sister bridges along the Allegheny River that we'll be passing under is the Roberto Clemente Bridge, in honor of the world-famous Pittsburgh Pirate Hall of Fame baseball player and humanitarian, who tragically lost his life while on a humanitarian aid flight to the earthquake-ravaged Nicaragua on New Year's Eve, 1972. The Roberto Clemente Bridge is the only bridge that is closed to vehicular traffic on Pittsburgh Pirates game days. Our tallest and most famous skyscraper is next in line. It's that tall, dark brown, triangular-shaped skyscraper with the UPMC logo at the top of it. Today it's called the USX Tower, but when it was first built, it was known as the US Steel Building and was the world headquarters for United States Steel. They too wanted their world headquarters built out of their marquee material, a brand new type of steel called Core 10, which was designed to rust over the course of several months, and that top layer of rust protects the metal underneath. It's why it has that dark brown complexion to it. But when it was built in the late 60s, Pittsburgh was dealing with some pretty bad acid rain. So the U.S. Steel Building rusted not over the course of several months, but just a few weeks, causing no small degree of damage to the city streets below. Tens of thousands of dollars in sidewalk had to be replaced due to all the rust stains. But today, the USX Tower does stand as a towering monument to Pittsburgh's steel manufacturing legacy. It's the tallest building in the city at 64 stories, is the 5th tallest building in the state, and the 200th tallest building in the world. The second of our three sister bridges is the Andy Warhol Bridge, named in honor of the world-famous pop culture artist born and raised here in Pittsburgh. Although growing up here, Andy Warhol did not have a lot of nice things to say about the city. He even referred to it as a culturally bankrupt town. With more than half the river. With LED, you can create just about any color palette you could possibly imagine. So during special events or holidays, the pyramid might reflect those colors. Over July 4th, the pyramid blinked a bright red, white, and blue. But on a typical day, each tier of that pyramid is a different color as it relates to the weather. Things like temperature, wind speed, precipitation, and humidity. Well, after doing all that work in 2012, the developers issued a press release. They mailed out postcards and printed flyers so that everybody would know what each color meant as it related to the weather. That was 9 years ago. Today, nobody has any idea what any of those colors mean as far as weather is concerned. But it sure is pretty at night. Well, we just talked about the tallest building in the city. Now let's enjoy the view of the largest building in the city of Pittsburgh. Right here along the riverbank is the David L. Lawrence Convention Center. Built over the original convention center, but made 3 times its original size. Bridge. The Veterans Bridge was built about 26 years ago, but it's an interesting distinction. So as we make the turn, take a look up at the traffic billboard. You can see the insignia that reads 579. Well, 579 connects Interstate 279 to the north with Interstate 376 to the east and west. So pretty much just the Veterans Bridge and a small part of the downtown connector are all that make up Interstate 579, making it the shortest interstate in America. Now look just beyond the Veterans Bridge, and a much more ornamental and historic bridge will come into view, the 16th Street Bridge, or the David McCulloch Bridge. But there's another interesting story behind it. You'll note. Also, be sure to track down our green shirt photographers that are wandering throughout the boat. She's on display on the top deck right now, as you see. And she's got full color prints of your onboard photos taking you for a ride. If you like, purchase those photos and take them home with you as a memento of today's trip. And I'll be back with you in just a few minutes.